In this experience, which I felt like occurring one, I found myself in a train traveling with musicians, colleagues from this life. I do not remember the direction, but one of them said, "I do not wish to go there." What was she referring to was not clear to me. I had to go out of the train as suddenly the person checking the tickets said, "Everyone prepare," instead of "prepare your tickets for inspection." I went out of the train. Then I had a second one, which I am not sure it was related to the first one. I found myself in a concert hall of my secondary music school. It was dark. Then there were a few musicians. I was in the audience, which was a very small amount. It felt like an open concert when we could discuss the performances of the musicians. There was a boy who tried to play some violin music by J.S. Bach, but the performance was not inspiring. There was not much music conveyed. I felt strongly I had to say something. My teacher instinct told me that, as usual, I had to be honest with the person playing, although this would not serve me, as they would not like what I'm going to tell them. I said to him, "I did not feel you understand this music very well. It sounded like an exercise. The deep meaning was not expressed, or any sort of this." To him and other members of the audience that sounded arrogant, and I felt their anger projected in me. I knew that it would come to this, but I had to be honest. Then suddenly a female musician, here I think that might have been the influence, who was looking a little more seductive, said, "I will not play any music by Bach, but something more virtuistic to you." Someone asked her, "Do you know him?" referring about me. Then she answered, "Yes, I have beaten him at some competition." I didn't recall or did not remember taking part in such competition, but I nod, and she took an instrument which was looking like a few violins together. Then instead of using a bow, she started plucking the instrument like a harp. There was a colleague of mine who was quite impressed. Then she stopped and looked at me, expecting my comment. But before even giving me a chance to open my mouth, she said, "I apologize as I didn't bring my interpreter," which I felt strange as she spoke perfect English. Then someone from the audience, another female, said to me, "I can translate your comment." Since they started talking to each other in Russian, I turned and said to the seductive performer in Russian, "You can talk to me in Russian." Then she was surprised to hear me speaking Russian, and I said something very fast, which I didn't hear very well, and asked her in English, "Could you repeat that again?" And here my alarm clock returned me to the current earthly life, when I had to wake up and prepare to go teach. Those were two experiences I had the night on the 12th of June, 2024. Nikolay.
Yeah, I found my
Okay.
screen, so yeah, I can talk now. Yeah, okay,
Okay,
you
good.
can hear me. Thank you very much, Val. Yes.
Nikolay?
Yes.
Okay, Val read the experiences, okay?
Yes, I heard everything. I just couldn't talk. I couldn't find my screen talking
That's
to you.
okay.
Yes.
Why don't you go ahead and mute, and then I'll go over them a little bit, okay? Go ahead. Yeah. All right. Let's keep it simple. Okay, so the first experience, and if you have something to say, I'll ask you. You're riding on a train, which is the journey, okay?
Yes.
You're on a train ride. Okay, so then the conductor comes up, who usually asks for the tickets, okay? So in other words, the idea is he's giving you a warning, all right? So in other words, you don't have to jump from the train necessarily. That's not the idea, but you did. That's your personal self. He's given you a warning. In other words, on your journey through creation here, these are things that are coming up. That's the idea. All right? Very simple. See, you have your real awareness and you have your personal self in these experiences. So you don't have to give up everything. That's where you're creative. So again, he's giving you a warning. That's all. You could have stayed on the train and kept going, but again, you decided to go off the train. All right, and in the second experience, it's very good. So at the beginning of the experience, this kid is playing Bach. Now, there's Bach, there's Beethoven, there's Mozart, and there's Wagner. Big difference. Okay, Bach is very mental. This is what kind of bothered the real you, because it's just a lot of mental stuff. May sound good to a lot of minds, but it's just a lot of stuff is what it is. And that's why your real self didn't really care for it. And you kind of were talking to him. It's like, you know, you don't know how to play this right or whatever. Because again, and you know this as a musician, and all over the years that I've studied music and stuff, I studied it a lot, and especially Wagner. It's the interpretation, it's the conductor, and each one of them, you know, performs it a particular way. They have an interpretation, don't they? Just like when you read something, everybody has their set up mind to where they interpret it, and music is the same. So when people hear a piece of music performed, Beethoven, Mozart, whatever, and it's the first time for them, well, they're thinking in their minds that, oh, this is how it's played, this is the interpretation. But as you hear other conductors, you find out that no, once you have a so-called ear for music or anything, it's not. It's about the interpretation. And see, you have a particular way to see things, and especially when you're using the new you, you're more in tune to the, you know, the so-called vibrations or reality and creation to what is better than just someone's interpretation. So you're going along those lines. And now the next part becomes very interesting as this woman appears and she does what she does, and then there's a person from the audience too. Well, these are also particular views for you to identify with. And if your impression was, in this instant, because it can be anything, that this was the influence, and she did, confirm that she knew you, of course, as you do the new you and whatever, especially the influence knows everybody, or it could be somebody else. But again, it really doesn't matter. It's about the experience and the action, and what do you see from it? You see? Now, do you have a question, or was there something else? Go ahead.
Yeah, because this particularly music by Bach, because I specialize this how to play Baroque music, it's a completely different way of anyone's modern, so-called modern players who use a modern instrument, or it's not even so much the instruments, but the way how this music is performed. Historically, for example, I play this music on the gut strings in a even the gut strings are not terribly important in the instrument, but the way how you perform. So the so-called historical performance, because I studied this in a because we study people, instrumentalists from the period who have left their writings about this music, how it's meant to be performed and so on. I don't know how accurate is this, because there's no, obviously the people who wrote this themselves, maybe it's their views. They probably even wrote these treatises because as a reaction of what was happening. So we don't know for sure, or maybe we do know for sure actually, but the way how it's, so that's why I studied this particularly how to play. In the dream, it I I wasn't sure what I was hearing. It was just a feeling that this boy. I didn't hear him even play. I just it was given to me as a feeling that wasn't right, and he was just performing as an exercise. So it was not even down to a historical performance. It's just he didn't play. That he didn't engage in performance. He was just
Okay.
using this
Okay.
as an exercise. But
Okay.
then the
Okay.
second part of that experience.
Well, wait. Let's just
Okay.
a step at a time. There's no rush. All right. See, I'm listening to what you're saying, and you keep referring to the historical, whatever way to play it. All right. Notice your words. Listen to what you're saying. Okay. So I'm just going off what you're saying, and that's your personal self. Now, here's an idea. You know, when people first pick up the Bible and they read it literally, don't they? Because that's all they know. They don't read between the lines. They read it literally. And most people take the Bible, as an example, literally. Now, when you have the awareness to see what's going on, you have a completely different view of the Bible, and you see things there that the literal people, which is most of the world that follows religion, do not see. It's in the seeing. So in this experience, you also have your personal self. It's not about Bach. It's not about the instruments. It's not about how it's played. It's about your awareness, and are you seeing the difference? That's what the experience is about. This is about awareness, not things. But your personal self is there thinking that, oh, you're not playing it according to what I learned in my head. Do you understand? Your head is in there.
Yeah.
You see?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So this is where we interpret things literally, even in the experience. And as we come back here, we have the opportunity, just like watching a movie, to be objective and see the difference. But if we interpret it literally, like a lot of psychics do, on a personal level only, well, when I see people's experiences or hear them, I try to show them how your real awareness is there, and it's set up to have an experience to where you have a comparison to something that you don't know to something that you do know. But for the most part, at first, and it's going to take a lot of years, that's where I tell people 50 years, okay? That's just the start. And that is that it's going to take you a lot of years to see beyond what you already know. So, you know, just the words that you're saying, you're confirming. See, it's showing you that you're stuck on the way that you've been taught. It's a new moment. It's a new now. Life is always new, like the sun shining, and it has nothing to do with that. But you decide if you want to stay with that. You understand, Nikolay?
Yes.
Yes. You decide. Now, it's not that you get rid of that viewpoint. Remember, nothing is negated in creation. You need it as a comparison. You know, just like if you go into the library and you want to find a book, what do? You go to the reference section, because the library is big. It's got, you know, thousands, millions of books, whatever. You don't know where in the heck they're at. So you go to the reference section. You need that there. And so once you find the book through the reference section, you don't toss out the reference section. You go, oh, I don't need that anymore, because you'll be back. The thing is that no, you need that reference section there. So what you've learned is very valuable, because now as you become more aware, your awareness steps in to see the difference between what you do know and what you're becoming more aware of, and starting to see more so that you don't know. This is where we're at. That's why this is not a teaching. This is not anything. It's not about gods and all this stuff and authorities or whatever, all these so-called absolutes. You see? Each person creates their own little bubble of, oh, I know this or that. Everybody becomes the know-it-all because they went through things. See, you went through the music thing and you become the know-it-all. Oh, I know this, I know that, whatever. See, again, that's the personal self. Now we're bringing in the real awareness because it wants to wake up the personal self and saying, hey, work with me here. So I become more aware and we get past all this stuff, etc. You see? So in other words, when you come back here, you look at that experience objectively and you look for what you don't know, not for what you know or you think. You use that and then you look for what you don't know. It's just like reading, the old saying, read between the lines, because it ain't written there. You have to see it, right?
Yes.
Yes. And this is for you. It's not criticizing what you've experienced. No, it's adding to it. And this is how you learn to see what's going on instead of getting that mind in the way and thinking that, oh, this is this and whatever, or I can't do this, or what, all these obstacles. Throw them out. Be new now, every moment, like the sun shining, and learn to see what you're going through. Learn to see what you're thinking and your thoughts are and your feelings and your ideas. You got to go through creation first. You got to figure yourself out first. And these are some of the steps you're going through according to the decisions you're making because you're involved in music. That's your thing, you see? And it's all okay. Doesn't matter. So this is where people are thinking, oh, I have to quit my job. I have to go live in the mountains or a tree because now I'm spiritual and all this stuff. No, it's nothing to do with that. Actually, you want to go through everything. You want to face everything in creation so you can get through it. That's what we do. See, and this is where most of the world, that's why there's only a few people here. They can't figure it out because they don't know you have to recognize what's real. It's not going to be, there's not going to be some big answer for you, or it's not going to come from worshiping an authority. What the hell is that? That's nothing. That's duh. That's the old gods and whatever. And yeah, there are gods, but they're all made up in creation. You're in the big opera here. Remember that experience when you and I first met? And I always remember that. And that is that you had this gigantic auditorium attached to your house. And I said to you, that's showing you the possibility of you getting up there and performing and letting the world know about the new you. They're showing you what's possible for you, but you decide how to do it. They're not going to do it for you. They're not going to play your harp or whatever. You perform it, and then people will come. You see, you build it, they will come. Ta-da! This is the fun part.
Okay, yeah. And the second part of this was when this seductive performer came and said they will not perform anything by Bach, but something more virtuosic. And that was probably, you said, the interesting part of the experience.
Yeah, because see, you're confronting the unknown, aren't you? But your personal self wants to continually verify what it knows. See, do you recognize that? Do you see that? See how that's taking place in that experience? Now you have an unknown there. You have this lady that comes up and says something like, okay, we want to play it more virtuoso. Whatever that means, whatever you think it means. But there's always more to it. So any answer that you get from anything, even what I'm describing, there's always more to it. That's the fun part. Yeah. So again, you're confronting something that's out of the ordinary. And that's the unknown. So do you recognize that? Or do you want to just place it in your mind and say, no, I don't want it? Just like the train experience. See, the train experience is like a setup. The conductor comes and says, oh, okay, get ready. We're going to go. Well, in your personal mind, of course, you don't want it. So you get off the train. You're saying, well, I'm not going to do this journey because the idea is to face it and be creative to see if you can get through it instead of running from it. You see? And this is what most people do when they come to this. They do it for a little while, they take some knowledge, and they run from it. It's like, wow, I don't understand this. I don't get what's going on. Because you have to learn to see it. It's invisible, and it's more real. Because all life's invisible, it comes from an invisible source. You can say, we'll just use that idea, to something visible we call creation. And so the focus is that invisible reality, the all is, the isness life is, because all life is awareness. It's not mind thoughts. It's not made up stuff. That's creation, where you have the clay, etc. So again, look at the action taking place, and you're the decider. So all you can get is the hints constantly. You're not going to get an answer like you do in your mind to where 2 + 2 is 4. You're not going to get that answer only in creation. And actually, what does all that mean? It's all relative to nothing, because you're in cause and effect. But you think it means something because you've been taught that to be literal. And this is where we're stepping beyond, you might say, the literal mind, while having to deal with it at the same time, you see? So you're making the choice in these things. You're deciding what it is. But I always look for what cannot be seen. That's the fun part. I learned to see it. And it's there, but it becomes so that you can't even explain it. And this is where the real guides are. They don't talk to each other. They're in a state of being. I remember one experience I had when I took the Rod of Power, and it was in Huntington Beach, and I was on the pier. And a bunch of the guides were there. They were standing there. They were in regular clothes, etc., and jackets, whatever. And they were around me. They were sitting on the railing. They were here, there. There's about 10 of them all around me. And I just looked at them, and all they did is stare at me. They didn't say a word. They'd stare at me. And I will always remember that experience, because they were showing me how it is. This sight, you learn this, this invisible language of isness, as opposed to the mind, and then you're free of the mind. But that's a huge process, because you still have a body here to deal with. So again, there's a whole lot more to these experiences than just definition itself, and that's where you come in. So you get some explanation here. I'm helping you out, but it's just like the teacher in school. The teacher refers to, read page 22 of your history book or whatever. This is the assignment, whatever, giving you the hints, but you got to do the assignment. You got to figure it out. You're going to figure out your life for you. You got to figure it out. So lucky you, you're here, and you have some hints and information to get you going to help you recognize the real you. That's the best part. More than being spiritual, okay? With that blockhead idea. But it's a risk-taker position, and you got to be a risk-taker. You got to constantly step into the unknown and face all the nonsense that creation will throw at you, and it will. So again, you have this seductive woman there, and I'm fine with the influence. We have a good time together because, I see what she's doing, and it's okay. I don't control her life. She's what she is. It's all okay, and it's cool. And she wants to be aware. So again, I just seduce her along to become more aware. But with people that are unaware, she plays with them to seduce them. You see? It's back and forth. That's how creation is. Till we get through it and see what's going on. So it's good to see you here. Go ahead. Did you want to say something? Go ahead.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for sharing. It's very important, because again, it prompts me to share with you and others to get this thing going, so people can get past their personal self and in a way understand their personal self, because you got to deal with yourself. So learn to watch the words and ideas that you create, and how you have the attitude thinking that you know something. Guess what? It's all made up out of nothing. What is it that you really know? It's better to be humble like the birds and children. They don't walk around like know-it-alls, but adults do. And that's how life is, like the sun shining. It's an innocent reality that's awesome and precious. That's all that matters. There's your freedom. Let go. And then just do what you do.